It's not very good.
I would definitely put it in the top 10.
So good.
It's kind of a mess.
A great work of cinema.
Train wreck.
Beyond a slasher, beyond a jump scare.
More thought has gone into the story.
Respecting the source material.
Extremely gory, extremely violent.
The lighting, the sets, the costuming.
Extremely scary.
Well staged, well shot, well acted.
I saw the comedy for what it is.
Relentless.
It was just really, really good.
This is pretty cool.
Another reason why I think it's
So good.
We do have a system, and it works.
Hello, hello, hello out there in YouTube and podcast land. You have reached Johnny Has the Keys, where we talk about horror movies and science fiction films and those key elements that lift and or separate them from the average genre fare. Are you new to us? Well, we would like to welcome you. David and I are old friends that have been talking movies since the dawn of time. And now we share them with the masses in an unscripted manner. We do tend to ramble, but we hope you find our ramblings humorous and maybe even insightful. And those of you that are coming back, you already know this, and that is why you are here. I am here with my good friend and co-host, David Horton. David, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. Thanks for asking. Appreciate it. Glad to be back. We normally try to start with a little icebreaker of what we've been doing semi-genre related this week. This week I delved into your world, but it's kind of mine. It's a hybrid. But since we're doing a double feature today, I thought, well, why not do a double feature? Actually, no, I didn't start out that way, but I ended up doing. Anyway, I watched The Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Oh, wow.
And it was
we covered that a few seasons ago.
Yeah. And I just watched it again and enjoyed it and loved the directing of that movie. If you're listening or watching it, you can go back and find that episode and listen to us talk about it, break it down. But
Richard Carlson running around in that skimpy swimsuit.
Right after it was The Creature Walks Among Us, which I had not seen in a long time. So I watched it as well. And it was such a could have been sort of movie. All of the elements were there. They just didn't click. And so I look back, and it's because it had a different director, different writer, of course, and seemed more of like we were trying to do Bride of Frankenstein, but we weren't as successful as Bride of Frankenstein.
No way.
I think by humanizing the creature, they ended up losing the scary element of it. And he suddenly becomes this creature we're empathizing with. Rather than in the first one, you empathize at the end when he's all sad they've shot him and what's his name pushes the gun down and says, no, let him go. And he wanders into the water.
And he sinks to the bottom of the lagoon, all sad.
So but it was just so cool to see two creature features back to back. I haven't done that in a while.
Well, Universal often has empathy for the monsters, in particular the Frankenstein monster.
I think they all do, but the Invisible Man, right?
Dracula, you don't have any empathy for him at all.
The
Wolfman, you do.
Universal. Yeah, Wolfman, you do. Frankenstein, you do. The Bride, you do.
And Invisible Man is just crazy and killing people, and Dracula is just killing people. So you don't really have any empathy for them.
Mummy's sympathetic.
A little bit, except it's a little boring too, because you don't see the mummy that often in The Mummy with Karloff.
Yeah, but you do get
see
the
him as
flashback,
a man. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he's in love with the princess, and they cut out his tongue. Well,
so yeah,
okay.
I watched a couple of creature features. So
you watched some creature features, and I watched a little movie in my horror genre week called The Vigil.
Okay.
You may not remember this, but this is also the guy that did, oh my God, I can't remember. He did the remake of Firestarter, which I understand is not good. I have not seen it. His name is Keith Thomas. He also did Pickman's Model. Yeah, he did something more recent too, and I can't
Yes.
remember what it is.
Okay.
Um,
Hickman's model, the one for Del Toro?
yes, yes, he did the what's it called, Cabinet of Curiosities
Yeah.
for
That
Del
was a pretty
Toro.
good adapt of that. I liked that version. I still go
I
back to the Night Gallery version that I really liked.
Yeah, yeah, you told me that when we watched it. I
Hmm.
can't remember what the new one. Anyway, the thing that's unique about this film, it's a very decent little horror movie, and it's set in the Orthodox Jewish community, which you
Okay.
don't really see a lot in horror movies. It was written by James DeMonico. The cast is great. It's got Dave Davis, Menashe, if I'm saying that right, Lustig, Malky Goldman, and Lynn Cohen. Don't know any of these guys, but they were all really good in it. A synopsis is a young man tasked with watching over a deceased member of his former Orthodox Jewish community finds himself trapped in a Brooklyn home, alone with a malevolent spirit. As the night deepens, so does the terror, forcing him to confront supernatural horror and personal trauma. So there's a little twist there because there's like something in his past. I found it fascinating because I didn't know about these rituals where if somebody dies, you have to stay with the body all night.
Yeah, which
Yeah, it's very creepy.
I knew it
This
from
movie,
Babylon 5.
what's that?
I knew it from Babylon 5 because Ivanova, the character on Babylon 5, is Jewish. And they also call it Shiva, I think, or Shiva. I
That
think
you
is
know
the
what? There
name.
is a name for it. I forgot about that. That is it.
But
I'm pretty
it's
sure.
it's the vigil that the body can never be alone. So yeah.
Okay.
And you take
The
turns.
it just occurred to me what he did. Maybe he wrote. Yeah, he was one of the writers on the first Omen.
The original.
No, the first Omen that was just recently redone by
Oh.
the woman. All of these, the reason, sorry if I'm rambling, folks, but the reason these people sound familiar to David and I is because most of them have been on Mike Flanagan's podcast.
Yeah.
And that's why all this stuff overlaps. But anyway, I wanted to see this movie because Mike Flanagan talked about it, even though I had heard bad things about Firestarter. And so I have a little bit more respect for this guy now. It gets 90% on Rotten Tomatoes with 117 reviews. I agree. It terrified me in places. I was pretty scared. The only gripe I have is it's a little too dark in places as far as lighting, so it's hard to see. But otherwise, I loved it. So I put it on our list. So
Excellent.
that's what I did in my genre week. And it has nothing to do with outer space.
I have a pseudo segue though, because one of the reasons I haven't watched it, one of the reasons I read about Firestarter, the remake, was it had a lot of studio influence on it. And I can't remember which studio did it, but it was the same one that did the original and with George C. Scott or whatever. And they exercised a lot of pressure on the production of this remake. And so that may be why he was under a lot of constraint from the studio, and that's why Firestarter sucked. But Vigil is more of a passion project, so he could do his thing.
And I mentioned that he was a writer on the first Omen, which I did like a lot. And it's directed by Arkasha Stevenson, who was, I'm pretty sure, on Flanagan's podcast as well, because I mentioned that her co-writer, besides this Keith Thomas guy's name, is Tim Smith, which cracked me up because I'm like, I can't believe somebody out there has my name.
There you go.
Imagine that. It's not a common name at all. Tim Smith.
But speaking of a project that had heavy studio influence, we are going to jump to back in time to, what year did we come out? 79.
79.
1979, and a passion project for not only Paramount, but for Gene Roddenberry and a bunch of other people. And we are going to, a bit of a passion project for you and I, since we have been lifelong Trekkies.
The fans.
Yeah. We are going to do a double feature today. We're going to start with Star Trek, The Motion Picture, 1979, which was the first of the motion picture franchise of Star Trek. And then we're going to go to Star Trek Nemesis, both of these.
It's an interesting pairing. I kind of like the symmetry of it. The first of all of them and the last of the Next Generation.
Before the quote reboot, the JJ verse was invented, or what they call the Kelvin timeline.
And they didn't do any with the other series like Deep Space Nine or Voyager or any of that.
Correct.
Yeah.
None of those other casts. Although in Nemesis, you do get Admiral Janeway, who is from Voyager. So, but this was a huge passion project. A little bit about it. I mean, for those of you who don't know, a synopsis of it is pretty simple. Go back and look at 3 of the episodes from the original series, and you got the same plot. But basically, a huge intergalactic cloud is discovered that destroys a Klingon attack fleet and is making its way slowly to Earth. The newly refitted Enterprise is sent to investigate, since they're the closest starship in the quadrant, as always, to go and investigate this cloud through a series of examinations and very lengthy special effects sequences. They find that this is a huge, like, solar system size machine, like an organic machine that is intelligent, and it is seeking its creator on Earth. When they get to the heart of it, they discover that the Vigil in question is actually Voyager, and it's our Voyager spacecraft that we sent decades ago into space, or centuries ago in Star Trek terms. And it's somehow merged with a machine intelligence and has now come to find its creator. And we end with a very ambiguous sort of touching our gods sequence. I know this isn't the first time you've seen this movie. Did you see it when it first came out?
I did. I saw this movie in a theater, and I was confused by it because I'm a big original series fan and wanted it to be like the original series. And then, so I got home, well, later on that year or next, it came on television, and it was the extended version or whatever on ABC, I think. And I watched it again thinking, okay, let's go again. And same reaction. I was like, this is not good. This is boring. And I never watched it again until I watched it the other day.
I stood in line for 2.5 hours for the very first showing of this movie. I was so excited. I had waited, well, my whole
10
life
years
to see it, but definitely 10 years since the last episode aired. But I had watched all of the animated series and was excited, and the original cast was back. The original designers were back. Matt Jeffries designed the Enterprise. I had read that in Starlog, and it was my senior year in high school, and I was excited. And Robert Weiss was directing, and I went, oh, he did one of my favorite science fiction movies of all time, Andromeda Strain. It's going to be great. This is going to be so. And I left the theater going, that just wasn't good. And I spent the next probably decade justifying that it was Roddenberry's wet dream of what he wanted to do. And especially when Next Generation came out, and you saw the first 2 seasons and how they were so, and read about behind the scenes and how Roddenberry's control of it was just desanitizing everything and making it so bright and nice and no conflict and yada. And then when the 3rd season started and Roddenberry had essentially passed away and now they had control, Rick Berman and everybody else, it got really cool. And Next Generation got good. On the Dilithium Chamber, which is a shameless plug on our Patreon channel where we cover every episode of the original series, we talk about Roddenberry a lot and his influence and pissing off the writers and rewriting stuff and taking credit for things that he didn't do and all of that. But he had this, I think he's a guy who had this initial vision and like 4 plots. And that's all he has. That's his whole shtick. And if it hadn't been for Gene Kuhn and other people, Theodore Sturgeon, all these other writers that contributed ideas, Star Trek would have never happened.
But he liked to take credit for stuff.
Yeah,
he wanted his name on everything. We compare him a lot to Chris Carter with the X-Files because they were the people that created this wonderful series, but then it wasn't really good until they let other people contribute.
Correct. And I think that's where when Roddenberry takes control, he desanitizes everything and gives it this real cold, impersonal, and it's usually a God figure in some way. That's his mainline story. That he's
got a God obsession.
Yeah. So yeah, I have a love-hate relationship. Watching it again this time, it almost became nostalgic. I could look back at it and go, "Oh, that looks interesting. If we had just cut that about 4 minutes, and oh, if we had just changed this, maybe." But still, it is Star Trek. If you gave the roots of Star Trek like a one-page white sheet of what is Star Trek, Captain, Vulcan, medical officer, spaceship exploration, yada yada, defending the Federation and Earth, and gave it to somebody who had never seen Star Trek episodes, this might be what they would have written. But the irony of it is it was written by Alan Dean Foster. Alan Dean Foster had spent the past decade turning all of the scripts from the original series into novels. So he knew the Star Trek characters inside out, left, right, upside down, and yet he still did this screenplay.
Well, he wasn't the only screenplay writer on it.
Right. Well, Livingston was the other one, right?
Right. And
yeah.
Sorry, I've got my Nemesis notes up here. The only thing I have about Harold Livingston is that he was 97 when he died in 2022. So he was still alive a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know anything about him. As far as Dean Foster, I always knew him as the guy that novelized movies.
Yeah, that's what he did. That was his shtick.
He would take the movie Alien and turn it into a book. That's the first thing I associate him with is Alien, not Star Trek. But he also wrote the first Star Wars novel after the Star Wars movie. I don't think Alan Dean Foster is the problem with this movie. And I'm not entirely certain that Gene Roddenberry is the problem with this movie. I think Gene Roddenberry is a big problem with this movie. But I think the biggest problem is I think Robert Wise was trying to redo 2001.
Yes. Oh, God, yes.
It's so much film and so little dialogue and so much special effects and so little character that's why it's not a Star Trek movie. Because what makes Star Trek, we've talked about a gazillion times on our Patreon show, is the chemistry between those three leads. Mm-hmm. You don't have a lot of it in this because there's too much scenery. How long do you have to see the ship?
Also, they intentionally wanted to talk about the time gap, so they created this conflict between the three of them. It takes a little while for Bones to get into the stride. Spock has done the Kolinar and now is totally emotionless and he sucks. And Kirk needs him and all that. By creating this internal character conflict, it takes us too long to get to what we love about the original, which is the three of them working together.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
I think it's a miracle that we got another Star Trek film after this. If Nicholas Meyer hadn't come along and done Wrath of Khan, I think that this would have been the gravestone for Star Trek.
If Wrath of Khan had not been what it was, I think Paramount made enough off of this that they were going to do a second one.
Yeah.
It's just that thank God they didn't say, Robert, Gene, throw together another movie for us, because I think that would have been the death knell. I think by giving it to Nicholas Meyer, letting him get back to the roots, letting him do essentially a sequel to Space Seed, that's what made Wrath of Khan the best of all the Star Trek movies.
Right.
But I also wanted to mention that a part of the problem with this movie is the fact that it had been in development for like 5 years.
Yeah.
So the animated series was like, I think 73 to 74, something like that. It was only 2 seasons. And some really good scripts in there, just cut down to a half hour and done in a very...
With James Doohan doing all the voices.
Yeah, with James doing all the voices and a very childlike sort of approach.
Yeah.
But Paramount said, we need a new series. So they started what was called then Star Trek Phase 2. By the end of a 3-year production, they had 13 scripts, all of them written by other Star Trek
fans.
No, hierarchy. John Meredith Lucas, Theodore
Okay.
Sturgeon, David Gerald, all of that. So great science fiction writers had these. So they had 13 episodes. They had cast a new young Vulcan named Zahn. They cast a bald Deltan named Ilea, and they cast a new commander named Decker. And they were all part of it. And the very first pilot was a Gene Roddenberry story called In Thy Image, which is this story.
It sounds like a Bible chapter. It's obviously a God story.
God complex. The reason that they had all the trouble was they were in production, everything was going good. They had all the returning cast except for Nimoy, who was not going to come back. He didn't want to do television again. He was over television, never wanted to go back to that environment again.
But if they had Decker and all these other people, how were they going to get Kirk and McCoy?
Well, they were still in it. They were still part of the story. These were just additional crewmen. If you go to the fan sites or if you go to the wikis or if you do some research, Shatner was wanting a lot of money to come back. So the studio kind of went to Roddenberry and said, okay, you can have him at that salary for 13 episodes. But you need to be ready because at the end of that, we're going to renegotiate. And if he didn't take less money, we're getting rid of him. So have somebody ready to take his place. So Roddenberry immediately thought, okay, I'll put in Decker, and Decker will slowly rise to become captain as Kirk leaves. That was how that was going to work. And of course, Ilea was there to attract younger fans. Zahn was there to attract younger. And since we don't have Nimoy, we have to have a Vulcan, yada, yada.
Okay.
But the studio was only doing this series because they wanted to create a totally new Paramount network.
Right.
And Star Trek was going to be the flagship of it. But when they started doing all their tests and syndication with the other networks and their affiliates, they realized they wouldn't make the money they wanted to make. So they were going to scrap the whole project. But the lead in Paramount said, we've already spent almost $1 million on this development over 3 years. So let's do something with it. Can we do a movie? Yeah. And that's how everything got changed within 6 months to now we're doing a movie. Fire the director who was going to direct the pilot for television and hire Robert Weiss. Let's see if we can negotiate because it's a movie, not television. Maybe he'll do it, yada, yada. And that's how this was born. So they took pieces of this failed series to turn it into this movie. And 3 of the other scripts ended up being used in Next Generation. 3 of the original Phase 2 scripts are scripts that were turned into.
And the development's still a little longer than what you're describing. Before we got Robert Wise, who I love, I've mentioned this in the last few seasons because we did a redux of The Day the Earth Stood Still. We also did a redux of the Andromeda Strain. We've covered The Haunting. We've covered a lot of Robert Wise movies. I think he's an American treasure. We've talked about how he got his start with Orson Welles. He worked with Val Lewton at RKO. Then he did movies like Run Silent, Run Deep, I Want to Live, West Side Story, The Sound of Music, The Haunting. He's an American treasure.
Yep.
But before they got him, do you know who some of the other directors were that were attached?
Oh, no, tell me.
Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, Francis Ford Coppola, and Philip Kaufman. All 4 were probably more approached than attached, I would say, would be my guess.
Not think any of them could do Star Trek.
Well, and I think the reason they wanted them is because Spielberg was hot. Lucas was really hot because one of the reasons this movie came along was because of Star Wars being so popular. We just talked about this ILM documentary where Francis Ford Coppola and them were all friends. So we know that he was hanging with Spielberg and Lucas. And I'm not sure about Philip Kaufman. I'm not sure about that at all. But Robert Wise ended up getting it, and I'm kind of confused because Robert Wise does really good character stories. Why he wanted to make 2001 baffles me, because he had already done 2 really good science fiction movies. So why? I just guess he didn't understand it. I don't know. It's sad because he really didn't do much after this.
His interpretation of science fiction was not Star Trek. There might have been some kowtowing to Roddenberry, or, well, you know it better than me, Gene, so you do your thing, because a lot of this dialogue is really stilted. It's very Roddenberry-esque. You had a director who I think didn't understand Star Trek.
But he understands human drama. Look at The Day the Earth Stood Still. That is about human drama, and Star Trek is about human drama. That's why I don't understand. It doesn't make sense to me. We always talk about movies that could have been are the hardest ones to stomach. And this has so much potential. To me, this is one of the biggest could have beens there ever was, and it just wasn't.
I think he was truncated because the story itself didn't allow for human drama, other than Decker and Kirk fighting for command. Everybody else is happy they're there. Even Chekhov hurting his hand, he's still happy that he's on the bridge and has a job and everything else. Everybody else is, yes, we're here to support you. But Spock can't have a conflict because he can't have a conflict. So the only thing, he doesn't react at all. So everybody reacts to him. And that puts Shatner overreacting all the time to it. And he and McCoy don't have any human drama between them. It would have been interesting if it was pulling McCoy back into space and he didn't want to go anymore. And you have some subplots going. But they didn't do any of that. And there's literally no chemistry at all between Ilea and Decker, because again, she's a Deltan, so she's like supposed to be this aphrodisiac, but she's a robot almost, and then she becomes literally a robot. So I think there's a lot of inhumanity in it. So how do you do human conflict? You know what I mean?
I don't know.
And I think that's what Weiss was struggling with, was I can't get anything out of this scene because I got nothing here.
So I'm going to do a shot of the Enterprise for 4 minutes or whatever.
Let the special effects guys show off. So, yeah.
Ironically enough, this is the second highest grossing Star Trek film since the J.J. Abrams reboot.
Of course. That's why I said, I think once it came out, Paramount was going to do a sequel.
Well, it's because all the fans like us were dying to see it. It doesn't mean we liked it. We just paid to see it.
Yeah. No, not at all. And I think early reviews said that. There are a few that I read that were like, missed the mark. Again, they feel the way we did. There was such potential here, and yet it's not really a Star Trek episode. It's not really, I don't know what it is. Because the whole thing of Vigil doesn't make sense at the end. What does that mean? That Decker gets to sacrifice himself to a robot and they flow in a bright light and then Vigil goes away? What does any of that shit mean?
Oh, I don't know.
I would rather have Trelane's parents show up. Vigil, you bad boy, what were you doing? You come home right now.
No, that's Star Trek V, isn't it?
Yeah, well, no, Star Trek V is, why does a god need a spaceship? So
no, maybe I'm thinking of Who Mourns for Adonais. Don't the gods come and like punish him or something?
No, Trelane.
It's Trelane. Okay.
Come and show up.
So
and
this is another Star Trek story. It's like a god misbehaving, so his parents take him home.
It's Roddenberry. It's so Roddenberry. And we don't like Decker because he's fighting against our favorite Captain Kirk anyway.
Right. He's the replacement. Yeah.
So there is no sympathy when he sacrifices himself. No. We don't feel anything for him. When we lose Ilea, we've only had 2 scenes with her, so we don't feel anything for her. I feel more for Chekhov when he gets his arm burned than I do for Ilea turning into a robot. It's an emotionless film.
Yeah, I don't feel sorry for Chekhov at all.
Well, I feel sorry for what I meant was.
I never did like Chekhov. I'm glad they don't give subplots to all the characters like they do now, which would drive me crazy. They don't give anything really to her or Sulu. Sulu's uniform is a bit different. His sleeves are shorter and it looks more like a kimono.
Yeah.
But the uniforms in this movie are awful. They're so bad.
Yeah.
There's just so many bad things. We could talk scenes or move to cast. I don't care. whatever you want to do. I will say this. When I watch this, and I'm not exaggerating, I like to watch movies when I go to bed on my tablet. I started this movie 4 times. I watched it in 4 segments. I would get 30 minutes into it and fall asleep. I would get 30 more minutes into it, fall asleep. That's how much this movie held my interest. And you know how much I love Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a good movie. And you know how much I love Robert Wise.
Yes.
So I'm what went wrong? And I think we've already hit that nail on the head with several things.
I think this goes way up the pinnacle of, like you said, could have been movies. Everything in it is bland, for lack of a better word. The sets are all bland. The monochromatic color palette is bland. The space jammies with the open collar showing all the men chests.
And they're all gray and beige.
Or like Kirk's stark white, which I don't understand why he's wearing.
With the real short sleeves to show his muscles.
He's on like a cruise ship or something. Scotty is in this weird space suit like all of the engineering people are. That makes no sense. And just, I don't know if the designers said, oh, well, we use so much color in the series, we want to not do that. Because that's what it felt like. Even when they're touring the Enterprise, the hallways are gray.
I love the color in the series, though.
What?
I love all the color in the series. That's part of it. That's why they should have embraced it.
And they should have. Are there any scenes that you think deserve any merit at all?
Any scene where you get to see just a spark of the chemistry between the 3 characters, Spock, Kirk, and McCoy. And there are a couple, but very little, where you're like, oh, there's the magic. You're like reaching for it, and it just falls short.
Yeah. I know the scene you're talking about when he first brings Spock into his quarters, and it's Spock and McCoy. And they're trying to, without saying it, say, Spock, what the hell's wrong?
Yeah. And
instead, he just wants to tell them about about how he felt the presence and everything else, but you see their reactions, and there's that for a second, and it's gone.
And that's the magic of the show, is that trio, and it's not in this film at all.
And when Nimoy can act, you see how well Shatner plays off of him, and it works. Right. But when he's playing the cold, emotionless, I'm going to go talk to the engineer now, blah, 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 there's nothing to play off of.
It's the same with DeForest Kelley. He can react off of him more, too.
When he grabs Kirk and he holds his hand, he goes, this simple pleasure Vigil does not comprehend. And you just see it in his face, and McCoy's behind him, and Shatner's. I mean, it just works. I did like the first probably minute of the reveal of the Enterprise, just because I do like the design. I think the new Enterprise is my second favorite. The original is my favorite. Because the Enterprise, well, by the time we go to our next movie, that's 5 Enterprises later.
And it's terrible.
So this is my second favorite design. I love the internal lighting on it. I like the new cell design. It's just a very majestic, still-looking ship. And so I liked it for the first pass, not the 3 turnarounds we had to do to look at every angle of it.
If I had to see Scotty and, was it Kirk?
Yeah.
Yeah. In that little pod going up to the Enterprise, I'm like, how many times are they going to cut to that same fucking shot?
Yeah. And the same thing when they went inside Vigil, and it takes forever. And we don't even know what the hell we're looking at other than just weird lights and shapes in the background. What is, there's just not enough substance to what they're trying to
No, there's not enough scenes in this movie to talk about scenes really either. I put in a little bit about every cast member because I didn't think we would have things to talk about.
Sorry, cast member?
Well, I was just going to say Shatner is now 94. He's still with us. He's one of the few still with us. He is still doing voice acting.
Yep.
So he is still working. His last camera role was in 2021, though.
Yeah, he does do appearances and stuff. He's actually in Knoxville. He's going to be in Knoxville this year.
Oh, wow.
So he's going around still doing his autographing stuff.
Yeah.
No, I don't care about autographs.
So you're not going?
Autograph. No.
I wouldn't probably go either. I like him a lot. I like his character a lot, but we'll get to it. He's got several enemies in the cast.
But he's had a wonderful career.
Yeah.
William Shatner, even before Star Trek, was a competent actor.
And he's not the only actor that had an ego. So.
Oh, no, not at all. I didn't like T.J. Hooker, but I love Boston Legal. When he reinvented himself and was able to make fun and play off his comedic chops, Boston Legal's great.
Okay. Well, David Kelly's a great writer, so I'm not surprised. Yep. Leonard Nimoy was he plays Spock, obviously. Last time we saw him in a movie on our podcast was in Them, the giant ant movie. His final tweet before he died a few years ago, have you read this?
No.
His final tweet was, "Life is like a garden. Perfect moments can be had but not preserved except in memory. LLAP. Live long and prosper." I think Nimoy was
a great career.
He was the grounding force in this cast to me, I think.
Yeah, he was the best actor. Yeah. Definitely. And I think he was the most dedicated to the craft of acting and to filmmaking. That's why I think he became a director.
Mm. That being said, DeForest Kelley was the most well-liked of the cast and the only one that never had a feud with anyone. Because there was all kinds of squabbles that we've read about with this cast over the years. He had reservations with the movie script, feeling the characters and relationships from the series were not in place.
Really? Duh. Good. See?
So DeForest Kelley knew more. He knew better. Along with Shatner and Nimoy, Kelley lobbied for greater characterization, but their opinions were largely ignored. That's exactly what we've been saying here. The magic is those three. You better give it to them or it ain't going to work. James Doohan landed on Juno Beach on D-Day. We all know this because he got his finger shot off. He's missing a finger. I've also got that he was hit by 4 bullets, not just the finger, his leg. One of them was his chest, and when it hit his chest, it hit a silver cigarette case, which saved his life. It was given to him by his brother.
So he smoked for the rest of his life. No.
Well, I just, you always hear that cliche of someone being saved from being shot by a cigarette case. So I wonder if that's true or if they made that up.
I don't know.
He has a great line about Shatner that I like. He says, "I like Captain Kirk, but I can't say I'm very fond of William Shatner."
Well.
Which I thought was funny. Sounds like a Takei line. Speaking of George Takei, his family was incarcerated in an internment camp in Arkansas when he was 4 to 8 years old, 4 years, where he learned to recite the Pledge of Allegiance while surrounded by guard towers and barbed wire fences. I'm just saying this for folks out there that may not know that this happened during World War II. An ad in a Japanese community paper led to a summer job on the MGM lot where he dubbed 8 characters from Japanese into English for the movie Rodan.
Wow, I didn't know that.
That's awesome. Cool. Yeah. So he has tied to a big Japanese monster movie. On William Shatner, Takei says he is a wonderful actor who created a singular character. No one could have done Kirk the way Bill did. His energy and his determination is Bill Shatner, but it is also Captain Kirk. And you usually hear Takei get in fights with him, but I thought it was really admirable that he said something nice about it.
Yeah, I think he has calmed down in his old age.
Just don't read his books.
Yeah. Yeah,
like
because
Star Trek Memory, don't read that.
Right after the series.
Majel Barrett was the original number 1. She is the voice of the computer. She played Loxana Troy, and she is Mrs. Gene Roddenberry. She's also known as the First Lady of Star Trek.
I think she has more lines in this movie than Uhura.
I think you're right. She does. We last saw her on our podcast in the movie Westworld. Remember, she was the brothel owner in Westworld. Mm-hmm. Prior to her death, Barrett recorded a number of voice roles in several Star Trek films and series, resulting in some posthumous releases of her last roles, she is still remembered as a major figure in Star Trek. And I can understand that. That makes perfect sense to me.
Oh, yeah.
Walter Koenig, this is a quote of his: "I was only one of two people who auditioned for the part, which is quite extraordinary, considering that this has so materially affected the last 35 years of my life. A couple of hours after I auditioned, I heard I had gotten the role." It's amazing when you think you were up against one person and you had a 50% chance of something that's going to affect the rest of your life.
He's also a cast member in my second favorite science fiction series of all time, Babylon 5. So
I'm looking at this and seeing if this quote's right that I have. With Anton Yelchin's untimely death on June 19th, 2016, Koenig is the only actor from Star Trek to outlive his modern counterpart. Does that make sense?
to outlive, well, yeah, because none of the other counterparts are dead.
Or had died at that point.
Well, none of them are dead because, like, what's his name that plays Kirk would have to.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I see what it's saying now. I was misinterpreting. You're right. Okay,
Yeah.
so Koenig is the only one. Nichelle Nichols became the first African American to place her handprint in front of Grauman's Hollywood Chinese Theater, along with the rest of the cast, in 1966. On the death of Leonard Nimoy, she said Leonard's integrity as an actor and devotion to his craft helped transport Star Trek into television history. His vision and heart are bigger than the universe. I will miss him very much, and sending heartfelt wishes to his family.
Oh.
So she said something very, very kind about him when he passed. I have some info on the newer cast members as well. Persis Khambatta, or if that's, am I saying that right? Chambada. She died in 1998, very young. She was 49.
Yep.
She played Ilya, by the way, in the early, what's that?
Ilya.
Okay.
She was that important. She was that important to you.
Yeah, she was that important to me. In the early 1980s, she was seriously injured in a car crash in Germany and had to have heart bypass surgery. On August 17, 1998, she was taken to the Marine Hospital in Mumbai complaining of chest pain. She died of a heart attack at the age of 49, and her funeral was held in Mumbai. That is shocking to me that she died so young.
Yeah.
But nowhere near as shocking as what I found out about Stephen Collins, who plays Decker.
Really?
Yeah. Do you know about any of this?
Find out about Stephen Collins.
So you must know about all this. You're talking about his statutory rape issues. Yeah. Wow. Well, I don't think he was ever accused, but first of all, most folks know him from Seventh Heaven, the TV series. According to Stephen Collins, nearly every new and upcoming actor at the time was considered for the role of Decker. Actors who auditioned included Andrew Robinson, who later was on Deep Space Nine, Jordan Clark, Richard Kelton, Lance Henriksen, Tim Thomerson, Stephen Mock, Art Hindle, and Frederick Forrest. Most of those folks I've never heard of. I'm assuming they're television actors.
Yeah.
On October 7, 2014, the New York City Police Department began investigating Collins after an audio tape leaked to the media revealed a male voice purported to be that of Collins admitting to past sexual abuse of a minor under the age of 14. A Los Angeles Police Department spokesperson stated that Collins had been investigated by the department in 2012 after receiving a claim from 18 years earlier regarding sexual abuse. The LAPD further stated that its investigation did not allow it to substantiate the allegation against Collins. In December, he had an interview with People magazine in December of 2014, and he admitted to inappropriate sexual conduct with 3 female minors in 1973, 1982, and 1994. The abuses were also the subject of an episode of the 2025 docuseries Hollywood Demons. So I don't know what happened. I guess none of these women came forward, so he got off, or the statute of limitations is passed.
I don't know the details. I do know it ruined his career television-wise. I think they let him go from Seventh Heaven because of the accusation. I think one of the accusers was in the cast of Seventh Heaven.
Okay.
It was one of his kids.
The daughters,
He's a minister in the series. So, yeah, I remember when it came to light and the big scandal happened, I was going, ooh, ouch, that sucks for that series. Because I think the last season they did it without their dad. But he's good in this role.
I could easily see him cast in a Star Trek series as a captain.
Easily.
Yeah.
Easily.
No problem.
Think he would be good at it. But I think that introducing him this way was not the best thing for his character because we don't care enough about him. He's so antagonistic, we don't care enough about him for his sacrifice.
I have a couple other cast member stories. Grace Lee Whitney was famous as Janice Rand, Yeoman Rand, in the first season of Star Trek. However, producers let go of her after the first half of the series, much to fans' regrets. She was asked back for most of the Star Trek movies to reprise the role. On her termination from Star Trek, they wanted William Shatner to have romances in each episode with a different person because for him to be stuck with one woman was not good for him, and it wasn't for the audience. That's what they told her, so she was written out. There were 2 blonde girls and 1 black girl. Nichelle Nichols was a more important character that couldn't be written out. Everything's political in America. One of the blondes has to go. It's not going to be Majel Barrett, obviously. The other one was engaged to the boss. So Grace Lee Whitney said she just about killed herself. She turned to booze. She said, that's what we do. We drink to get rid of pain. I was really mad and really bitter. Former co-star Leonard Nimoy helped her find the strength to join Alcoholics Anonymous and confront her addictions. Nimoy saved my life and gave me a second chance. And I don't know if you read this, but I read somewhere that Shatner and maybe Nimoy always negotiated her into the movie in their contract.
Roddenberry as well. And again, I think it goes back to what we all know is there was a sexual assault by an NBC executive, never mentioned or whatever, but I think that had a big contributing factor as well. And I think Roddenberry always felt guilty about that.
I think so too. And I think they wanted to get her money.
He wanted her in phase 2 as well. And I even have a quote where he says, I read it, that he thought for the new series, having Kirk go to the planet and have a relationship with some alien woman and then having to come back and face Rand would be a lot of drama. And I was glad she was in this. And she's actually in all of them. Right? I think
she's in almost all of them. I read that they always felt like she needed money and they wanted her to be in these movies so that she would have a place in the history of Star Trek as well as some money in her pocket.
Yeah, good.
I have one other person that's in this movie from the original Star Trek, and that's Mark Leonard. In the film versions of Star Trek, Leonard played Sarek in 4 films, Star Trek 3, 4, 5. No. 2, wait a minute. No, this one, 3, 4, and 5. He was in 6 too. He also played an unnamed Klingon captain in this. He is one of the few actors to ever portray 3 different alien species on Star Trek. That's probably his claim to fame, but I always associate him with Spock's father.
I think he's great in that role. It's also one of my favorite episodes of Star Trek.
Balance of Terror.
Yeah.
He almost played a human. Gene Roddenberry wanted him to play Abraham Lincoln in The Savage Curtain, but he was unavailable at the time.
Oh, that would have been interesting.
That would have been interesting. Then he would have been 4 different species. But we all know him mainly as Sarek, Spock's father.
I think he's one of the few originals who's also in Next Generation. I think only he and DeForest Kelley are in Next Generation episodes. He plays Sarek in a few Next Generation episodes.
Right. As far as awards, this movie was nominated for 3 Academy Awards. Isn't it funny how movies that we hate get nominated? It was nominated for art direction. It lost to All That Jazz. It was nominated for visual effects. It lost to Alien. Completely understand that. and it was nominated for music and lost to A Little Romance.
Because this music is good.
I'll get to that in a second. 10 Saturn Awards, pretty much the whole gamut of Saturn Awards it was nominated for. It only won for special effects. It was nominated for Golden Globes, score, and it was nominated for a Hugo, dramatic presentation. It didn't win either one. And it is not on the 1001 movies you must see before you die list. And I completely understand that. Back to music, I didn't realize that the music from this film is the music for Star Trek The Next Generation. I had forgotten because it's been so long since I've seen this movie. So when that music came on, I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Goldsmith wrote it for this, and then when they went into production Next Generation 7 years later, they said, hey, we already have this theme. Let's use that bad boy.
So when you think of the opening of Star Trek The Next Generation, it is the exact same music from this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's wild. I had no idea. That's how long it's been since I've seen it.
But the love theme in this, I like as well. The alien cacophonous stuff, they repurpose over and over again in Next Generation and in other movies and everything. The Klingon theme, they repurpose a lot too. That's used for the rest of the movies and in Next Generation and in Deep Space Nine. I have one little trivia thing which is related to casting. That's David Gautreaux. He was originally cast during that pre-production period at the same time as Decker and Ilea. He was cast as Zahn, the Vulcan. But when we got Nimoy back, we didn't need Zahn anymore. So they got rid of him and rewrote him, gave him a part. He was Commander Branch, who is the guy from the space station, the monitoring station that gets destroyed. He was going to be the new Spock, the new young Vulcan that was going to be in the series.
Because they were afraid that Nimoy was going to not take their offer.
Nimoy had refused to do the television series. So that's why, but it was so sad that Decker gets this huge part. He gets this little cameo.
And you know what, though? I don't care. Because I don't care about them. I care about Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. That's what this show's about. I am an old man. Get off my yard.
Out of my yard, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Remember how when Star Trek 3 came out and they were going to bring Spock back, we used to make fun of it and call it Star Trek 3, The Search for Plot.
Yep.
Instead of The Search for Spock. This movie had several derogatory nicknames as well. Did you know that?
No, but I'd love to hear something.
One is called Star Trek The Motion Sickness. Another one is called Star Trek The Motionless Picture. And then the third one, which is probably the most appropriate, is Star Trek The Slow Motion Picture.
That's good. That's perfect.
One of his ideas was for time travel relating to the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Harlan Ellison also pitched a story in which the crew traveled back in time to the era of prehistoric man. The time travel plot would successfully be revisited for, of course, The Voyage Home, First Contact, and then Star Trek in 2009 as well. So time travel's always figured into a lot of the plots of these movies as well.
Oh, yeah. Always.
But that's all the trivia I have. We can move on if you don't have any.
Yeah.
It's not like this episode's going to be short.
Well, it's a double feature. And
it is a double feature.
I just have a few keys. The first one being what you just said at the beginning, 2001. He was so inspired by 2001 for this. The pace, this whole grandeur of the ship and everything else. Entering the cloud was just like the whole slit scan sort of effect when he went into the obelisk or the monolith. Even down to the Star Child. And ironic because the effects for this movie were done by Doug Trumbull, who also did 2001.
The effects in this movie are wonderful. There are just too many of them.
Well, this has more special effect shots than the next three movies combined.
That's so crazy. Why wouldn't somebody realize this is going to be boring?
Honestly, I think if I was Michael Eisner, who was the head of Paramount at the time, he probably looked at the screening of this and went, well, shit, We already spent all this money. We got to do something. I don't know how to fix it. You need to reshoot half the movie to fix it.
And while they were filming it, was there a lot of anticipation of people that it was clear it was going to be a moneymaker without even having seen it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I
so
think
it was like,
the
who
early
cares? They
release
just put it out there.
And it was almost like a coup for him, because one of the things I read said that they were still in production of the series when going through the scripting and going through everything they had to do for it. A press conference or maybe even a board meeting or shareholder meeting or something like that, Eisner said, no, what we're working on is a 2-hour movie. It's coming out soon.
Yeah.
And that was the first the cast had heard of it. That was the first other people had heard of it. And I think he had to call his own bluff.
Well, it also could have been a bluff to get people like Nimoy interested as well.
Could have been. That could have been the hook for him.
I have a bunch of Star Trek episodes that this has, and I'm sure you do too.
Go ahead.
The Doomsday Machine.
Yep.
Because Decker is the son of Commander Decker in the Doomsday Machine. There's a direct familial contact.
And it's a machine
connection.
that's threatening the ship. Yep.
I have Next Generation because of the music. I have The Changeling.
Yep,
and Where No Man Has Gone Before.
Yep.
And then I also had Balance of Terror, which we've already mentioned.
This is definitely the change. This is a much better script than this, but this is that story. An early Earth probe that mingles with an alien technology and comes back to Earth seeking its creator.
And ironically, all of these episodes are from the better seasons, and there are better episodes for it to be not so great a movie.
What did Meyer do? He said, I'm going to reinvent the Changeling and do it well. It would have been great.
Yeah.
But they did not. I have Galaxy Quest. It's so obviously inspired by Star Trek and by this movie, but the fact that Sulu has a frickin' throttle, which I hate. I hate in this movie. They make fun of it in Galaxy Quest, and it works for me. Okay. But when he goes like engage warp, he grabs a thing and goes like airline pilots do. And that's not the way the Enterprise works.
Ooh. Your dog agrees.
My dog does not like that either. So,
I was saying Star Wars because Star Wars was so popular in 77 that I think that's what got the emphasis that science fiction movies could make a profit, a huge profit. And I think that's one of the reasons why this went into production. Star Wars is a direct key as far as production.
Totally. And the other one I have, the only last key I've got is, and it's more of an influence. So yes, I guess it's a key, but this whole Vietnam Lieutenant Syndrome, that's the conflict that they put in between Decker and Kirk. It's this, you're coming into this, I know it better than you. I'm the sergeant that's been on the ground with these men since they started. You don't know what you're doing, and without me, you'd be dead. I'm saving your life all the time, and I'm doing that for you.
There's actually a better key to that.
Hmm.
And it's also a Robert Wise film. It's Run Silent, Run Deep.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one, yeah.
The dynamic between the new and the old, or whatever, the higher authority, the lower. Right. But I have a couple of others. I have Robinson Crusoe on Mars.
I'm not seeing the key with that one.
It's that horrible wig that Spock has on Vulcan. He looks just like Friday.
It probably is the same wig.
It is the same wig that Friday wore in Robinson Crusoe. I have one last key, and you're going to like this one, and it's the McDonald's Happy Meal. This film was the basis for McDonald's very first Happy Meal movie tie-in promotion.
Nuh-uh. I did not know that. That is cool.
As a Star Trek, it was known as a Star Trek meal. I'm surprised you didn't have one. It's too bad they didn't give little figures away. They may have. I don't know.
I'm sure they did.
If they did, it would have been expensive, but it would have been cool, and that would be highly collectible, I would imagine.
by now, yes.
But that's all I have on that little gem of a movie. Like I said, it's the first time I've revisited it since I watched it on television in 1980, and I don't know that I'll ever watch it again.
It's bordered into nostalgia for me, so
Yeah.
I can kind of watch it again, but no, there's nothing compelling, really.
But see, I like some of the latter movies better than you do. I don't mind The Voyage Home, and I really like Final Frontier.
I like Final Frontier.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of Voyage Home. I don't like 5. I don't like Generations.
No, I'm talking about original Star Trek movies, not Generations. I don't consider that an original Star Trek movie. It's just got Kirk in it. It's still a Next Generation cast.
I need to watch it again to really form a good opinion, because I did not like it to begin with for the sole purpose of bringing Spock back.
Yeah, because it kills the second movie. But the second movie, you can't kill that movie. That movie is never going to be top. That is the best Star Trek movie there ever will be.
Oh, yeah. I completely agree. I don't think you can ever top it. You'll never get that chemistry anywhere else. And if you tried to remake it or reboot it, which is what they tried to do Beyond Darkness, it'll never work.
But yeah, and I've always said 2, 4, and 6 are the best movies. And so I would cover 4 or 6 on here. Easy. Yeah. On the podcast.
Yeah, I think we should definitely look at 6, because I think 6 is a really strong play.
Christopher Plummer as a Klingon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, we need to move on.
Yes, we're going to jump 22 years into the future to 2002 for Star Trek Nemesis. This is the last movie with any reference to the original 2 series. So this was the last for Next Generation cast who had dominated the franchise for like the past 3 films. They had done the Changing of the Guard movie with Kirk appearing in Generations and then having his character killed. And they had done First Contact, which was actually a really good Next Generation film, if you want to classify it old cast, new cast. First Contact is probably the best of the...
And I think I've seen that. I'm pretty sure. Alice Borg's in it, right?
Alice Krieg is a...
Alice Krieg. I called her Borg because she is a Borg. Okay, yeah.
And directed by Jonathan Frakes, done in a very good style, everything else. Unfortunately, this one that we're about to watch is not a fan favorite at all. It is not directed by Jonathan Frakes. And I'm probably one of only 10 people on the planet who actually like this movie. But we are going to Star Trek Nemesis. It was written by John Logan and Rick Berman. It was directed by Stuart Baird, who really only has 3 film credits. He is mostly an editor. He's edited some incredible films.
I noticed that. I was like, how did they get him? Because, like you said, he directed U.S. Marshals and Executive Decision, but he edited, like, James Bond movies.
Oh, yeah.
And Superman.
He's an incredible editor, and really looking at production for this, it was just like a timing thing. They had tried like 2 other directors, but he basically was available and there, and they said, let's give him a shot. Come on. So they did, and that was a mistake, I think.
Maybe. I think there's a few mistakes in this movie, but I will say overall, you didn't ask me about my experience because you were still
Well, let me give the through line first.
Sure, go ahead.
Like I said, this is the last of the Basically, the Romulan Senate has a coup in it from their rival, not a rival planet, but an enslaved second planet in the system called Remus. And a new praetor and head of the Romulan Empire is voted in. And his name is Shinzon. He wants to open up communication with the Federation, claiming peace. So the Enterprise is sent to negotiate and be diplomats. When they meet Shinzon, they discover that he's actually a clone of Jean-Luc. He's basically a human Romulan clone. He was going to be used as a spy, infiltrate the Federation, get rid of Picard and take his place. But all of that was thrown out the window by a new political coup. And so he has decided he needs revenge, and he needs to have a transfusion from Picard in order to save his life. Additional subplot in this is they find yet another version of Data, and they call him B4, and he is put back together, and turns out that he was planted by the Remans in order to gain access to Federation codes and the computers on the Enterprise. But they do a plot twist and flip that, and then they have a lot of space battle and fighting and stuff. And at the end of it, Data sacrifices himself to destroy the witch's ship and save the Enterprise.
I assume is a twin planet of Romulus. Is it not?
It is. Romulus is, I think, the fourth planet. Remus is the fifth. However, Remus constantly, one side of it constantly faces the sun.
It doesn't rotate. It revolves, but not rotate. I'm looking at Greek mythology, or maybe Roman mythology, and Romulus and Remus were twins, and that's why I assumed it was a twin planet. And I like that concept of having, yeah.
And they explore it in Next Generation. The Remans are a slave race of the Romulans. They explore it a little bit in Next Generation, and it gets a little bit more convoluted, but it's good, and I think are really cool. I also really like Tom Hardy in this role. I think he's very good. I know a lot of people don't, but I think he's great.
He's very young. I may have interrupted you, but did you say you do like this movie?
I'm one of the few people. This movie was not popular at all. Fans hated this. And there's a lot of reviews you find online of people just trashing Nemesis.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And I like it. I
honestly, paired with the other movie we just watched, I liked it too because of pacing. Because there is definite pacing in this movie. But I only watched the first couple of seasons of Generation, and I just gave up. And I've only seen Generations, the movie, that Borg movie, First Contact, and then this was the very first time I've seen this film. And I was wanting anything that would entertain me after watching that first Star Trek film. I didn't hate it. I did notice some things, though. There's a lot of rip-off of past Star Trek. There's a lot of con in this movie. There's a lot of other elements that have been used before.
I think the major problem with this movie is the fan pandering that it does, and the Next Generation pandering specifically. So you could have cut that entire wedding sequence. I don't think it shows the characters very strongly. I don't think it's a very good sequence at all, and it doesn't help the plot. So you could have cut that whole thing. I think you could have truncated down the whole Data thing and maybe added some more at the end so we actually feel sorry for Data's sacrifice rather than it being so abrupt and we go, oh, Data's dead.
Yeah, he basically just Picard out of there and blows up, and that's it.
And then we have all this lengthy reaction of Data, and then we do the funeral, and then we remember him, and yada, 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 but we're not feeling anything in it because we didn't see him totally do the sacrifice thing, which, again, very Wrath of Connie. But they didn't. But we also don't care because we've got B4 there, and we know he's already uploaded all of his memories to it. So it's just like, oh, so in the next movie we can just reboot him and turn him into Data, and bring the search for Data. We could do that as the next movie.
Don't you think it speaks volumes though of the Wrath of Khan that even future Star Trek movies continue to rip it off?
Of course,
it's just crazy because that stupid Into Darkness did it too.
Yep. And
by basically being a remake, essentially, which is, I don't know, get into that. That movie's horrible.
It is. It's very horrible. But I like the Scimitar. I think that design of a ship is great. I've always liked the Romulans. They are my preferred alien race in Star Trek.
They're like mean Vulcans.
Yeah, political mean Vulcans. And there's a huge arc in Next Generation where you play off the fact that they were an offshoot of Romulus, just like it says in Balance of Terror. They were an early exploration group from Vulcan, and that's how the Romulans developed their whole culture.
Right.
But there's lots of references to Next Generation, which you probably didn't get, and I'm not going to list them all because they won't make any sense. But they really pander to the Next Generation fans all the way through this movie. down to Geordi not wearing his visor because now he has his ocular implants and his eyes are robotic and yada, yada, and stuff like that. But I loved the opening sequence with the whole Senate chamber, and then we essentially turned the entire Imperial Senate into ash. So
Yeah, that was very good.
Cool. I didn't like the wedding scene. I didn't like the dune buggy scene, but I love the scimitar. I think some of the space battles are really well done and dramatic and well edited and all of that. I like a lot of the Shinzon stuff with Picard. So I think it's got some cool stuff to it. I think it also has some negative stuff, but none like freaking Whales in Space one or Star Trek 5. Jesus. So anyway.
I would take both of those over this.
Really?
Yeah. Star Trek 5 is pretty bad, but I still would rather see the original cast. This was written by John Logan, who also wrote Alien Covenant, one of your favorites. He wrote Skyfall, which I thought was interesting because that connects him with Stuart Baird because he edited Skyfall. But it was also a story by Brent Spiner, which I think may have been some of the problem. It was like he wanted to be this. He's always been compared to Spock. Now he's also living Spock's death in Wrath of Khan, basically, his sacrifice for the crew or whatever.
And they actually bring Data back in Star Trek Picard.
Okay. Well, I mean, he's an android. He's easy to bring back.
Well, the whole first 2 seasons of Star Trek Next Generation are about how Data is unique. He's the only one. He can't be replicated. Can't remake him because his creator died, taking all the secrets with him, his brain, blah, 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 blah. You can't make a new one. And then in like season 3 or season 4, they find another one that his creator secretly created and kept alive. And then you find yet another one as he's commanding the Borg in like a later season. So this is like the 3rd Data they find, supposedly Data's original. But yeah, I could understand him pitching that series. Or that episode, that plot line of, we find pieces of Data and we create a new one, then I can die.
It's very convenient that there's another Data before he dies, because they all expected another movie and it never happened.
Yes, I would have cut the whole scene where Geordi is saying, "Are you sure you want to put your memories into him, Data? Because that takes it away from you." And he goes, "If it'll help him, of course I will, blah, blah, blah." I would have cut that whole scene. I would have kept the scene where he turns off B4. It's a really good scene between Spiner and himself, but he's saying, "I'm going to have to turn you off." And he goes, "For how long?" And he goes, "Indefinitely." And he's messing with his neck and everything else. I would have kept that scene. And then at the end, I would have gone back and you find out that when he was doing that, he was putting his engrams or his memories or his whatever into that robot. Right. That would have been cool and kind of a twist and kind of work. I did like the twist with Data and B4 aboard the Romulan ship, where we think it's B4 turning into being a traitor, and it turns out that it's actually Data. Yeah, and Picard had it planned the whole time.
Right. Yeah, the movie had some moments. I'm with you, though. The whole Dune buggy planet thing was stupid, especially the Indiana Jones mine shaft jump off the cliff and into the spaceship thing. Oh my God. It's like, that's been ripped off. And it's not even a good rip off.
And the shuttle, let's fly the shuttle through the halls of the spaceship, through the hallways, and then go out of.
That was stupid. But I liked when they crashed the ships. That was great.
Good effects and really something you wouldn't expect. So that was cool.
It's the most expensive of the first run of Star Trek feature films. However, it is the lowest grossing Star Trek film, surpassing Star Trek VI, The Final Frontier, which I don't understand because that's a great movie. After adjusting for inflation, this is the only Star Trek film to gross under $100 million domestically.
And part of the budget was the cast as well. This was a large cast that was all well paid already from the series.
Patrick Stewart was the last to sign on. He was very Spock-like because he was holding out for money as well. It suffered the biggest second weekend box office drop of any Star Trek film, 76%, surpassing its predecessor, Insurrection, which was 62%. So both those last two Next Generation films tanked after the first weekend.
I would love to know what Jonathan Frakes thinks of this movie, because he directed the previous two, and he directed a bunch of Picard. And I think he's directed at least one per season of Strange New World and Discovery. So he's still very involved behind the scenes in the Star Trek franchise. So it'd be interesting to see what he thought of this movie.
Yeah, I've got in my notes somewhere, I haven't got it in front of me at the moment, but LeVar Burton wanted to direct it. I don't know if he's got experience, but he was begging them to let him direct it because I think he saw some problems. And he's got more insight having been, but I don't know what his skills are as a director. I respect him as a person. And was this the first film he didn't have a visor? I thought that happened in the series or something.
No, in the series he always has a visor.
I knew he was probably tired of wearing it. I thought they probably resolved that problem in the series, but never mind. I didn't realize this was the first time.
Yeah, they did it here, and then in the reboots, like Picard, he doesn't have it. In the very last episode of Next Generation, the series finale, it's set like in 3 different time periods. Of course, time travel again, because that's the Star Trek motif. But the future one, the future Geordi, does not have the visor.
Oh, okay.
Because
they have bionic eyes by then.
Yes.
Lindsay
But they
Wagner.
aren't these cool looking twinkly ones like he has now in this movie. They're all just like white.
Okay.
In the future.
Did you want to mention some scenes?
Oh, well, I think we have mentioned a couple of them. I really like the opening with Romulus. I think that's a really cool scene. I like Shinzon's appearance to the landing party. I think it's really atmospheric and really cool and well shot.
When they're destroying the Enterprise, I was just like a nervous wreck. I was like, holy fuck, man, they are bombarding that ship. And that's why I love the scene where Picard just says, let's just push our ship into their ship. I was like, that's great. That's a great solution. We'll just all die.
Right. Of course, then again, you're thinking, okay, this is a starship commander who's like literally probably killing 36 people in the front of the ship who are going to ram into an alien ship. But hey, what the hell? Let's just go for it. I have a love-hate relationship with the Scimitar's bridge. I think it's massive. But it's really cool that they went with a really vertical-looking set. It's like 3 stories. But that seems like a huge waste of space on any ship. And you have a Tetrion or whatever the radiation emitter is. You put it on the bridge in a room right behind the bridge. That's where you keep your secret weapon stuff that Thalion particles or whatever could just like kill the whole planet. Really?
Yeah.
That just seems like you would have a weapons room for that thing somewhere else on the ship, not just right behind you.
You've got the data scene at the end, but to me, it's less impactful because of the fact that it's a ripoff. I've got just brief things on the cast, not even as much as I had as the last one because I don't care about this cast as much. Patrick Stewart plays Jean-Luc Picard. He was paid nearly as much for this film as he made in the entire run of the series.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of money. And he's worth it because he's clearly the best actor in the cast.
Oh, it's phenomenal.
Yeah. Jonathan Frakes returns as William Riker. Brent Spiner returns as Data. LeVar Burton returns as Geordi LaForge. And apparently on set, and I think that there was not a lot of respect for Stuart Baird. I kind of got that gist when I was reading things that the cast were saying about him. Did you get that?
Yeah.
Okay. Because apparently he mispronounced LeVar Burton's name as Laverne.
Mm-hmm. But that makes sense.
LeVar's not a hard name to remember. Anyway, Michael Dorn played Worf. He constantly was begging them to give him something to do because he does nothing in this movie. He shoots a gun on a dune buggy, and that's about it. He is a good character, but they don't use him. However, they do use Marina Sirtis as Deanna Troi, and she is the one that I hate the most because I always hated her on the show because she feels so much.
She's the outgrowth of Ilea. That's the key to her. That's why she was created for Next Generation. She's the Ilea character changed up for Next Generation.
Wow.
And she and the commander have had a past relationship that they don't want to talk about, and it doesn't come to fruition until near the very end of the series when they both finally start dating again.
And virtually raped in this movie by Shinzon.
Which I think they only did for graphic appeal. You could have done it without the sex scene. You could have just had her being hurt.
It was because they use it later for her to get into him, but I still didn't like it. Gates McFadden plays Beverly Crusher. She has a few things to do. Not much, though. What's his face? Will Wheaton is back in just a scene. He didn't even have any dialogue as her son, Wesley, who everybody hated from the original show, if I remember right.
Oh, yeah.
Tom Hardy is new to this. I like Tom Hardy. I have been watching him for a while, and I think he's great. I had never seen this movie, so going back and watching it, I was like, damn, he's so young in it.
I did not even know him when I watched this movie. Because I watched this movie in a theater, too. I saw it when it was released. And it wasn't until years later when I found out who Tom Hardy was. And then they had said, oh, and he's played Shinzon. I mean, oh, my God.
Yeah, because he's so skinny. He's a lot beefier now than he was back then.
Well, and I read that he actually lost weight to play this part. His character to be very angular and everything else.
There was another actor that was considered for this role. Do you know who that is?
No.
Jude Law. Ron Perlman plays a viceroy in this. Other people were considered for that role, too. One was Alan Rickman, and one was Craig T. Nelson.
I don't see that, but
neither one of them are big, burly guys. Craig's a little stocky, but I don't know. It's weird. And then Shannon Cochran played Senator Laura. Some of these I'm not even going to go through because we just don't have to. You mentioned that Janeway has a cameo in this. Admiral Janeway, played by Kate Mulgrew. It's in the very beginning when she tells Picard that he's got another wonderfully, I don't know, I can't remember the word she uses, mission that he gets put on all these less desirable missions. Majel Barrett makes a cameo as the voice as well of the computer. So that's really all I have.
Yeah, she's the voice for all of Next Generation, the whole series. Anytime they speak to the computer, it's Majel Barrett.
Yeah. As far as awards, the only awards that were nominated for were Saturn. It was not nominated for film, supporting role, Hardy, costumes, and makeup. It didn't win anything, and it is not on the 1001 movies you must see before you die list.
No.
Which I get. I don't have a problem with that.
But I like the Reman's costumes.
Yeah.
I thought
the aliens in this are good.
To kind of support it with the Romulans, and the Romulan design in this is the same one as Next Generation. So costuming, their foreheads and their wigs and everything else, or their hair and foreheads, that's straight from Next Generation. And again, I think both of these could have been movies. I think this one I enjoy more than motion picture.
Me too.
For me, I enjoy it more than a few of the other Generations. I know Insurrection.
I haven't seen Insurrection, but I've seen Generations, and I can understand that. And even the worst of the original cast movies, I would take over this just because I like seeing the original cast. Except for maybe the motion picture, which to me is just so slow that this movie was just a refreshing burst of air to watch following it because it moves.
This did break a trend I have in trivia, because up until this point, there was this whole mythology around odd and even numbered Star Trek movies. All of the evens were good. All the odds were bad. But this was essentially Star Trek 10. And it should have been a great movie, but it was not.
See, I only classify that with the original cast. I don't even think any beyond that.
Like 6 is good, 7 is not, 8 is good, 9 is not. And that's Next Generation movies. Because First Contact is 8, and it's good. But 9 is not, because that's insurrection. So, and it's not that it really sucked. It had F. Murray Abraham in it. It was a good movie, but it was basically a Next Generation episode, stretched out to over 90 minutes.
Keys?
Of course, you cannot do this without the original series, the other movies in the franchise, and Next Generation series. They were huge influences on this, obviously, from the dialogue to the cast interaction. All of that is hugely influenced by the series itself.
I have stuff I copped off of IMDb. One of the things is when Commander Riker orders Worf to cover him during the gunfight with the Remans, the Klingon officer dives to the floor, shooting his phaser rifle exactly like Ringo Kid in Stagecoach, which is a John Ford movie from 1939.
I didn't get that, but that same one, I have Star Wars, because the Viceroy and Riker both dive into a tube off the corridor, just like they do the trash compactor.
Oh, you're right. I remember that. Okay. I just found it interesting because it's a Western, and there's always the Western allegory with Star Trek because of Gene Roddenberry talking about wagon train in space.
Yeah, that's a great one. I have Mad Max just for the dune buggy sequence because it's very chase through the desert.
And Tom Hardy is Mad Max. The only other thing I have really, well, no, I have a little bit more, but the Wrath of Khan parallel is just unavoidable in this. It is actually beating you over the head with it a little bit when you think about it.
Even down to the Katra, essentially B4, and here's my memories. That's Spock putting his Katra into.
All Data had to do to make it worse was to put his hand on somebody's face before it happened. I'm implanting my memories into McCoy.
I have an odd reference that you have to be a cinephile to get, and it's Excalibur. Because when he stabs Shinzon with the piece of the wall, he grabs it and pulls himself closer to Picard, which is exactly what Mordred does on the sword in Excalibur.
I have it as Le Mort d'Arthur.
Same thing.
On the battlefield of Arthur's last battle, the king runs a spear through Mordred, his evil, illegitimate son. With the last of his strength, Mordred impels himself even further onto the spear to be within striking distance of his father to land a mortal blow on King Arthur. And, of course, Borman took that and put it into Excalibur, so it's the same thing, basically. Yeah.
God, it's awesome. Yeah. Which reminds me, I saw a review of this, and the guy said, I had one suggestion I thought would work. Because one of my notes is, what the hell happened to Picard? Because he like totally freezes. And Data comes in, and Data looks at him, and he doesn't react. And Data puts a transporter on him, and he doesn't react. And Data beams him out, and he doesn't react. And I was going, you just had this huge fight with like 6 damn Remans and killed Shinzon, and now nothing? I didn't understand. It's supposed to be
I thought he was like pinned in. Then Data just pushes Shinzon over, and I was like, well, he's not really trapped. Why is he just standing there?
Yeah. And supposedly, according to one review I read, he's in shock because he just killed his former self. This one reviewer said, you know what would have worked if in his last like few minutes or whatever started looking like Picard.
Or said engage.
Or when he pulls himself up to him real close, it's almost like Picard's looking in a mirror at himself. And that would have been more shocking and might have worked better for this whole shock moment element because it made no sense to me.
He could have just looked him in the eye and said, make it so. Or kissed him. I don't know. I don't know.
My notes for this are like, there's a countdown going and you're going to let this guy have his last line and talk to you?
Yeah.
I don't understand Picard freezing. I thought the transporters were offline. That's why Data had to fly over. How can he suddenly beam Picard over?
Because he's got a magic button that he sticks on him.
Good thing we have a spare Data in the back room. Where was Worf during all of this? Was he just shooting in the hallway the whole time? And there's no sense of loss because we don't understand the sacrifice to begin.
Yeah. And the Enterprise has a hell of a force field because it is literally destroyed and it is still maintaining life.
Yeah, this is not like the rest of like Wrath of Khan where they're blowing holes in it. This is like it has a few firefights, but it's mostly the same.
I can't remember if it's Geordi or who it is that's saying, shields are 17%. I'm like, holy fuck, this is crazy.
And it has this whole parting scene that I don't think we really needed. The whole denouement of saying goodbye to Riker and blah, 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 because we never even get to see the Titan. We never see.
Well, it's good that they did it, though, because this ain't going to happen now. Well, I guess it may have happened with Picard.
Actually, if the second or the third season of Picard, the one that's very Next Generation centric, actually has some pretty good stuff to it. The guy that became the showrunner of season 3 really loves Next Generation. And so he really gave it a great send-off in a lot of ways. All the character arcs are strong, and it works pretty well.
So it's like his gift to the people that didn't get it with this movie.
Yeah. And you even see other characters from Next Generation, like Ensign Rowe and all kinds of, and there's references to Deep Space. He really knows Star Trek as opposed to Kurtzman, who sucks. So,
yeah. Okay.
Anyway.
Well, I guess that's going to do it for this immensely long episode about David and I do love Star Trek. We hope we haven't offended any of you fans out there because we just care about them, and that's why we get mad when we don't like something. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks for all of your support. If you like what you see here, you can always find other stuff of ours out on YouTube. If you listen to us on the podcast waves, please go to our website where you can find all of our episodes listed from going back for, 8 seasons now. And if you really like it and would like to support us, we could always use your help for supplementing costs. We've got some shows over on Patreon that you can enjoy as well. Usually television type stuff, which is Star Trek as well, the original series and the X-Files, as well as some free stuff if you just want to dip your toe in the water and see what's over there. Please go over there and check us out. Until next time, David, I hope we're in Horrorland. I need a little palate cleanser.
We are. Terrified me. So scary.
Oh, good, good. I will see you then.
You can't start the car, Johnny.